Welcome to Linesville, Pennsylvania. Located near the shores of Pymatuning Lake, this wonderful borough is filled with rich history and local pride. Join us as residents show and tell everything that makes their community a great hometown.
My name is Robert Griffin, and I'm going to give you a little information on my early days and how it led into my art career that I'm doing today. So anyway, the Linesville, of course, was a great place to grow up. I had the woods right behind my house. I could walk to the lake after school, weekends, whatever. Drove my bike to the lake constantly. So I pretty much grew up on the lake and in the woods behind my house. And so that's sort of what led into finding arrowheads and led into the career that I'm doing now, which is painting Eastern woodland Indians. So it was a perfect place to grow up. I mean, all the kids that I grew up with hunted and fished and so joined the Boy Scouts, and so we were all part of that whole wilderness thing. And that's how it all started. I mean, I started finding arrowheads, and started buying books on the subject. My parents bought me books every holiday, Christmas, birthdays, whatever. And so it was great. I got quite a library just built up just from, books that people were buying me. Obviously, we hunted arrowheads on the shores of Pymatuning Lake. Every fall, they would let a lot of the water out of the lake, so we'd have this big, long shoreline. So we'd find arrowheads on the beaches. And in the other places were in the cornfields, farmers' cornfields. And one of our favorite places to hunt was the Stewart's Farm, which was right outside of town here. And it's kind of ironic because the Stewart Farm was started by my great-grandfather back in the 1870s. So that was a really hot spot for finding points. So that whole thing, was really what led me into what I'm doing now, which has been a very successful career with that subject matter. Well, the ones, of course, that are connected with Linesville there's two paintings connected with Linesville, and one is called What Happened in the Pymatuning Swamp, and the other one was called The Secret Salt Spring. And these are stories that I grew up with when I was a kid. The Secret Salt Spring was almost a family story that was handed down through generations, that was started by Amos Line, who was a trader and had a small store just outside of town here. And so the salt spring was secret. The Indians knew where it was. They would go collect the salt water and boil it down and collect the salt and bring it into town and trade it. And Amos Line was at that time a trader, and he had a little store where he sold a small amount of merchandise. It wasn't right in town here. It was actually outside of town, just right on the township line, Pine Township line. Amos Line was the founder of Linesville, which a lot of people already know. He was my fourth great-grandfather. He was a Quaker. Like I say, he owned that small store and where he traded with the Indians and also sold merchandise to some of the settlers here in town. He also had a grist mill right down here by the town creek, which he started that after his little store burned down. It was a little log cabin, and it burned to the ground, and so he came into town here and started the grist mill. He actually laid out the town in 1825, I believe, was when he actually did the plans for Linesville. And I don't know a whole lot about what happened to him from about the 1830s on. He died in 1851. But I don't, like I said, I don't know a whole lot about him at that point.
My name's Peg Knickerbocker, and I'm the owner of what was once called the Milo Arnold House. It's called the Arnold House, built by Milo Arnold. And in the day that he had constructed it, I'm going to talk about how it came about that he was in Linesville, how he and his wife developed the idea of doing this, and then to say that I'm the 19th owner and I'm still trying to do his legacy. In 1869, Milo Arnold moves to Linesville, and in 1872, he marries Clara Wintermuth. They run a hotel called the Commercial Hotel. They get an idea of building the finest hotel around, and so they get together and they buy two lots that are on Pomatooning Street, Mill Street, and Erie Street. They go to the Strattons next door to this lot, and they make an arrangement to get a mortgage. In that mortgage, they design the hotel to have an entranceway over to what was the Opera House. They didn't want anybody to soil a slipper on the way to the opera, being that the roads at that time were all dirt. There wasn't any concrete or anything like that. They build that, and they open, and it's a grand opening. They have the train coming from Meadville, bringing people out. They have a band. They have a wonderful, wonderful opening. But tragedy strikes a few years later. Milo's wife gets what was then called consumption, which is known as now tuberculosis, and she passes away. When that happens, he kind of loses his heart about what he's doing, and he tries to find a buyer to buy the hotel. When he fails to find a buyer, he continues to try to run it himself, going from Northeast down to Linesville and back. At one point, they have a very serious accident, and that kind of pushes his hand. He finds a buyer by the name of Mr. McIntyre. Mr. McIntyre trades him in barter a 117-acre farm in Northeast for the hotel. So because the McIntyres get divorced and the transfer goes into the wife's name, and at that time she did not make a go of it, Milo gets the property back again. There he is going from Northeast Pennsylvania down to Linesville and back. Well, in one instance, they have a very serious buggy accident during that trip. And so this kind of puts it to where he finally really does want to get out of the hotel business. He finds a buyer by the name of Joseph McGuire. Joseph McGuire does buy the hotel, moves into the hotel, makes the hotel what a gentleman's traveling stop would be. He even advertised it as that, such as the traveling salesman, the gentleman's hotel. He owns it for 34 years. When he purchased it, when Mr. McGuire purchases it, he changes the name to the Arlington. The Arlington is the name of it all the way up till 1993. In 1993, I become a purchaser of it. I am the 19th purchaser of the hotel. And when that happens in 1993, we still had the name the Arlington. We were in hospitality just like any other restaurant around, but we did not have any rooms for rent. Then in a choice of trying to sell the hotel, again, this pattern repeats itself. We put it on we sell it and we hold a liquor license and we hold the mortgage as being part of the sale of the hotel. Well, that owner that we sold it to does not end up being able to continue to have the hotel as a profitable business, and we end up taking it back in 2005. That's when we decided to name it the Knickerbocker. The Knickerbocker because my husband's family, in 1842, his Aunt Frances Knickerbocker was born in Linesville, and his Aunt Jane Knickerbocker married and lived in Linesville. And since the Arnolds thought it was a great idea to name it the Arnold House, and the McIntyres had it as the McIntyre, we decided the Knickerbocker's a pretty darn good name, so we named it the Knickerbocker. In 2016, because of the internet and people wanting to know their history, we got a call from the two great-granddaughters of Milo Arnold, and they wanted to come and they wanted to see the legacy that their grandfather had built. So they come to Linesville and they spend the weekend with me, and they do all the kinds of research on it. And I find out that the history of this building was to always house and have people here to have wonderful functions, to enjoy themselves, and to really keep the legacy of Milo Arnold alive.
Hi, I'm Pete Houghton. I'm going to talk about the spillway today. Well, Linesville got a real boost to its economy and its population, especially the seasonal population, with the completion of the Pymatuning Dam project, which occurred in 1934, which created Pennsylvania's largest reservoir, 17,000 acres, and great recreational opportunities to the community in Linesville. But it was done because of three goals is why the Pennsylvania legislature built the reservoir. It was one, for flood control after devastating floods down the Shenango and the Beaver Rivers. And then second was a consistent source of water because of the developing industrial revolution that was occurring along the river systems of the Beaver, the Shenango, the Ohio, and the Mississippi. And third was recreation, and that's where Linesville truly benefited from the recreational aspect of the goal. And with it came a mandate with the recreational end was to provide a wildlife sanctuary as part of the project. And that's where the spillway comes in, because what they did was build the spillway here in Linesville, which created a 2-foot elevation difference, a reservoir upper lake, if you would have, for the upper lake of Pymatuning, which was kind of off limits. We leased it to the Fish Commission, the Game Commission, for wildlife sanctuary. But as a part of that, the spillway actually backed up the upper Shenango Reservoir, which created this tourist attraction, which developed it's feeding the fish, where the Linesville Spillway got the slogan, where the ducks walk and the fish is back. The project, the Pymatuning Dam project, didn't come without some controversy, because Linesville was apparently the second largest producer of onions in the state of Pennsylvania. And with the flooding, especially at the upper lake area, it was a flooding of the onion fields. And some controversy there, but with the devastation that had occurred along the river system, the flooding and the droughts and the industrial revolution that needed the water, it went on. And who would ever to think then, with the spillway, that it become the perhaps this, one of the largest tourist attractions in the state of Pennsylvania, evolved over time. And people have always asked, where do all the fish come from? Well, what probably happened was the carp is what the fish are mainly, and they were in the river system. And with the spillway, it becomes a natural food source with everything flowing to that point. And so the fish were gathering there. People saw that. This is in the late 30s or 40s. Started throwing bread to the fish, is what I'm confident has happened. And it evolved from there. And people came from Pittsburgh area primarily, was a major source. We're driving up here, and became a real tourist attraction, the parking along the highways. So then Pymatuning State Park, which manages, runs, and regulates the spillway, obviously decided they needed off-road parking. They put a pit latrine and a small concession building in at the area. And it continued to grow and take off with no more tourism. And then eventually, it grew so big, and again, they're at 400,000 visitors a year to the spillway, which is one of the largest tourist attractions in Pennsylvania. In 2006, the state park invested over $3 million into the renovations, with stabilizing shorelines, ADA access, beautiful walkways, a new concession building, sewer and water with flush facilities, and made it really landscaping and developed it so it was accessible to all. And with that comes more and more tourists, and the uniqueness of the place has really hit nationally with some really major publication. Through the New York Times has come out, and I interviewed myself and others. The Wall Street Journal has visited the site and done articles on the spillway, as well as the Roadside America was a magazine who did a major article, and then Better Housekeeping listed in a national magazine listed it as one of the top most unique places in the country. So it's gathered a lot of attention through the years. The spillway is certainly very important to Linesville, and again, with the development, modernization of it, a modern concession stand, and it's rainy days, it doesn't matter. And even in the wintertime, people stop by. The fish aren't there normally as much in the wintertime, obviously, but it's a place where people go year round. When I worked here, it didn't matter. Sometimes, the beaches in the park or camping is light because of the weather, but it doesn't matter. The spillway had crowds at it. It's just something that people have always done. And the concession, if you're here, they sell the fish food and the bread. You can stop by. They have a good, snacks and gifts and lunch. Stop for lunch. And if you happen to be there in the evening, I think the Pymatunning Spillway has one of the nicest sunsets in the country. It's just, I've been around quite a bit in my travels and things, but if you're there in the right night, this spillway with the backdrop of the islands and the large lake on the opposite side of the road is just phenomenal sunsets at times. So I think that's worthy of taking in if you're there, and then visit the other shops and stores in Linesville.
My name is David Myers, and I'm a former wildlife conservation officer for the Pennsylvania Game Commission, and I was stationed in Linesville my entire career here. And I had the fortune to work on bald eagles, our American symbol. And at one time, our eagles here were very endangered, and they were put on the federal endangered species list. We only had 3 nests in Crawford County, and one of them was over in Geneva, and the other 2 were right here in Linesville. And eagles were endangered because of pesticides in our environment. And they went very low in numbers. And what would happen in my observations of eagle nesting, normally in the spring, the eagles would set very low in the nest on her eggs. And oftentimes the eggs would break and she would abandon the nest, and because the eggshells had thinned from the pesticides. Well, we developed a short program of when the eggs would break, I would know because of her actions in the nest. And then we would climb the tree and put in fake eggs into the nest, and she would then, upon come back and incubate the fake eggs. And at that point, I would call there was a program of the federal government, and I would call and request a chick from the federal government, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And they raised them in the laboratory under controlled conditions. And then we would fly a chick here to Linesville, and we'd reclimb the nest and put the chick in, and she would come back and adopt that chick and raise it as a young eaglet. And then on its own, in about 3 months' time, 2-3 months' time, that eaglet would fly and be on its own. And so that was a very important program that we started here in Linesville. And we had success with those nests because of our environment here in Linesville. We have a great refuge, we have a great lake, and we had a cleaner environment. So we did that for several years, and bald eagles are a little bit of a misnomer. It's not a bald head at all, it's feathered head. It just happens to be white. They don't get the white head or the white tail until about 5 years of age. The young immature eagles are all solid brown. And the nest were just so impressive that we had here. They build onto the nest each winter and add sticks to the nest, and they're just huge. Sometimes some nests are up to 1,000 pounds, and it can even approach a ton. So it's a huge nest. And it takes that type of clean environment for them to live in and feed. They're mainly fish eaters, and that's why lakes and rivers are so important to them, and wetlands too. and we were very fortunate to have that here in Linesville. So after the mid-'80s, when we were doing this for a while here in Linesville, and then raising those chicks into freedom here around our area, we initiated another program with Canada. And we had brought back a total of 88 young eaglets from Canada, Saskatchewan. We'd only bring back one or two from one from each nest, and bring back maybe several each spring. And we raised those eaglets in a controlled environment down by Harrisburg. And they would fledge out of a hacking tower and fly on and be on their own. And from that point, it was very successful. And we have now eagles throughout the entire state. When I retired in 2005, and I stayed in Linesville, and there was quite a few nests. At this point in time, and we're at 2019, we have well over 300 nests in the state of Pennsylvania. The bald eagle's been taken off the endangered species list. It's been taken off the threatened list. There's a threshold of so many nest eagles per endangered species, threatened species. They've been taken off of that now. We're still giving them protection. The federal government protects eagles by the Bald Eagle Protection Act. We also have the Game and Wildlife Code that we protect eagles. But the main thing that we are so proud of, that our environment is cleaner. We're not using DDT and pesticides anymore. And we protect them. Some eagles have been shot. But more than anything, they just have common accidents that they pass and die from. They can live up to 35 years in the wild. And they'll take care of themselves as long as their environment's clean and the food and the habitat's there for them. So that was the goal of the Game Commission back then, and I was so proud to be part of that here in Linesville.
My name is Brian Baer. I'm owner of Baer's Corvettes in Linesville, Pennsylvania. My dad started the company in 1970. Had a 3-bay garage behind his house and grew it into a well-known establishment in 50 years now. We'll be celebrating our 50th year here coming up. We have 10 full-time employees. So we started out with a 3-bay garage and up to seven buildings here in town now. We ship stuff all over the world. We manufacture over 400 products for the Corvette industry. So we enjoy all that aspect of our business. I have one employee who's been with us 48 years now, Mike Farley. He's my part owner with me now. It's employee-owned company now. My dad started working in a Chevy garage in 1960 out from Pittsburgh when he moved up, Vic Fair in Meadville, Pennsylvania. Then started working in the body shop, then got into the fiberglass end of it. And he was working on a couple things and was contacted by an engineer from Molded Fiberglass here in Linesville that builds all the bodies for the 1953 to 1972 Corvettes. So they showed him how to glue the cars back together with their original glue. From Chevy, they were taught to glue the parts together which took 24 hours to set up. Their formula took 4 to 5 minutes. So when you work in flat rate, there's no brain. That's how he got into the Corvette industry, with the help of Molded Fiberglass. So we, throughout the years, we helped them out with their paint schemes and all that for their displays all over the world. Molded Fiberglass is a well-known establishment here in Linesville and around the world. So that's how he got started, really, by doing body work, then in mechanical, then into parts. He bought it when I was 6 years old, but I started going to different car shows with him when I was about 10. I didn't get my first paycheck till I was 15. And started out as grooming up from sweeping the floors to doing body work, mechanical work, then took over the parts and business end aspect of it. So my dad grew me up from the beginning to the top without even knowing he was doing it. Now, I said we make all the parts and all that. We get celebrities calling us. They're mechanics, and Jay Leno, his mechanic called us. We sold them parts throughout the years for a couple of his Corvettes. And we did one project for the local people. It was a pink Corvette we did for the Orlando G. Barco Center in Meadville, and it raised over $135,000 for their transportation fund. Jay Leno even signed that car. Arnold Palmer, Eli Jackson, Alan, a lot of different people signed that car. And we raised over $135,000 for it. Every year in third week in May, we have a car cruise. It's our 14th year, was this past year. And it draws people in from Pocono Mountains, Canada, New York, Ohio, West Virginia. It just brings people into this little village for the day. And it helps out the Linesville Rotary. They do all the food. Lakeland Valley Senior Center, which I'm heavily involved with, they have spaghetti dinners. The Hospice of Crawford County. My theory in life is I take care of the younger groups, so I sponsor all the different sporting events and all that in town, and the senior centers, seniors, because they need our help. My feeling is that every community has to take care of themselves. We can't rely on all the government funds and proceeds we're supposed to get all the time. We don't always get it, so we have to rely on our local communities like Linesville does. And we're a tight-knit family, and everybody enjoys this little community.
Hi, I'm Dan Whalen with Linesville Pine Sewer Authority. I'm here to talk about the water system a little bit and the sewer system and how it developed from the early 1900s to today. The sewer system started back in the early 1900s. I'm going to tell you the 1930s. Due to illnesses from all the different diseases. And the doctors were finding out a lot of the issues were the sanitary issues, sewage running down the ditches. By the 1950s, I believe it was, they finally got around to starting a plan to put in a sewer system. At that point in time, the sewer only ran down the Linesville Creek. By 1969, they had the new sewer plant built, which was down along the creek bed, and that's what started the real sanitation in Linesville with a true sewer plant. It was upgraded in 1990s, early 1990, 91, and then in 2003, I believe it was, Pine Township started an Act 537 plan, and all that is a plan to evaluate whether sewer systems are needed and how to go about it. Linesville was under a moratorium from DEP, where moratoriums mean that you cannot do any connections and you got to do so much maintenance to get it out of the moratorium. Around that time, Linesville and Pine Township went together and decided to do another Act 537 plan, and that's where it all started from there on building the new plant. They started construction in 2009 for the new plant, and the new plant's down on Hurtstown Road. The new plant was built basically because Linesville was under the moratorium. Linesville was having a lot of backup issues and overflows, and we couldn't meet our permits that DEP put down for us. So we worked with Pine Township to build this new plant. The construction that we did was a lot of new manholes, over 100,000 feet of pipe that we put in. They did about 20%, 19 to 20% of the borough new piping. About half of Pine Township's all new sewer with pipes, new everything. The authority at this time is still working on Linesville Borough because it's a lot of old clay lines, old brick manholes. But the construction lasted a good year and a half, the main construction of the plant to get it built. This was all done with grants from Penvest, Go H2O, I believe it's called, and that's a grant system. And we also have about $15 million loan from Penvest to get it paid That's the biggest expense that we got right now. It's like $26,000 a month in payments. The new treatment plant's done very well. Our flows have went down since the old plant, only with all the new construction and the construction that we're doing at this time. Pine Township has seen some new construction happening with a new store out on the east end of town. There's several new houses that are built or revamped from cabins to houses now. So it's been a positive effect for Pine Township. Linesville doesn't really have a lot of room to grow, but it's been a bonus for both communities.
Hi, I'm Dave Oakstead from Linesville. I've lived here for 35 years, mayor of town for going on 3 years now. I got 2 more years to go. And I've been in the fire department for over 40 years. You know, I enjoy it. Always something I wanted to do. So, went through many, many classes over the years. Did a lot of new trucks, old trucks. And it started between the 30s, mid-30s, maybe early 40s. I do believe the Legion started, the guys in the Legion over here started the fire department back then. The Siren Tower used to be on top of the hotel here back in the years, and the fire department was actually across the street in the Borough building. When you go out, look at the 3 doors there, you can see where the bays were. And then I guess one day they were back, one night from a call they were back, and then one truck kind of sank in the floor, and they said, that's time for a new fire hall. So up behind Country Fair is where they built, there used to be a big parking lot, and that's where they built a new station up in 1974. Fire department moved in 75, and they've been up there ever since. They started with a 1942 Chevy they purchased back then, and that was their first truck. And they had another old truck, I can't remember what it was. No, we tried to find pictures, but we couldn't find it. And then they moved on to a 1957 International John Bean, which is a high-pressure fog truck. Back then, it was a high-pressure fog system on the truck. They called them the apple sprayers. But then they moved on to another 1969 International front-mount tanker, it's a 1,500-gallon tanker. And over the years, the more fundraisers they went. He had a Willys Jeep for a grass truck, and a bread truck, what we call it, the bread truck, which is a step van, which you carried all of our fire gear in, rescue tools, you know, all kinds of stuff like that. And then 1979, he ordered a 1980 Chevy pumper. There was 2-man cab, 15 tank, 15 pump in it. It also was a high pressure truck. And then from there, we moved to a 1992 International 5-man cab, 1,500 tank, 1,500 pump. It was an automatic diesel. And then they went on to the next truck was a 1980 grass truck. They bought in Pittsburgh, kind of the grass truck. It ran for many years, and they replaced it with a 2004 Ford F550 flatbed. And then we purchased another new truck, a 2000 International Freightliner, 5-man cab again, 15 pump, 15 tank. That was our rescue truck for many years. And then here just recently, 3 years ago, we purchased a 1995 from McCain Fire Department as a rescue truck, but they were getting rid of. And it worked out good for us. We put all of our rescue tools on it, water supply truck, motor vehicle accident truck, you know, it worked out well. And then from there, we also have a 1998 Ford F350 ambulance we run when we have the people around. So that's all. We also have a boat, you know, a rescue boat, which hasn't been on the water yet this year, thank goodness. Our newest purchase was 2013 RTV Kubota. You know, it's for rescue, brush fires. And then our oldest vehicle we had at one time was an amphibious duck. It was a 1940 or 50, I can't remember. But it was an all-wheel drive, 6-wheel drive, amphib boat. You know, we loaded the scuba team up, drove it off the beach into the water. It's just like a regular boat and stuff, you know. And we have had that for many years. And yeah, our fundraisers, we've had pancake breakfasts there for a couple, you know, last 2 years. We've run pancake breakfasts through mid-fall through the winter into spring. It worked out pretty good. And then our fundraiser we got going now is a basket raffle we're going to have for Ducks Unlimited coming up. And we figured that'd be something different to do. And we're always looking for new volunteers, young people to come in, even older people to come out and help out. There's always stuff to do in the background at the fire hall, especially when we're out in major fires or something. You know, they can come in and get food ready, you know, just be there, make coffee and stuff like that. But yes, you know, fire department is good for the community. You know, we're there to help our community out. Wherever they call, we're there. And it's good to be here, and people enjoy seeing us going out and doing stuff. You know, parades, fireplace, and stuff like that. We're there when they need us. So I enjoy it. That's what I've always wanted to do for the last 40 years. And here I am today, still at it.
My name is Jean Johns. I'm the lay leader at the Linesville United Methodist Church, and I'd like to tell you the history of our church in Linesville. Our current church is located at 334 West Erie Street, 2 churches west of our only traffic light in town. The church was originally called the Methodist Episcopal, or ME Church. They originally met in a schoolhouse, but a church was built in 1861 at the corner of West Erie Street and Church Street, which is 2 blocks west of where the current church is located. That building was sold in 1898, and a new construction was begun at the current location. The lot on 334 West Erie Street was originally purchased for $370, which at that time was considered a lot of money. And a good home and lot could be purchased at that time for $1,500. On January 14th, 1900, that new building was dedicated. It's interesting to note that in the building of the very first church, the current church, and the addition, the members of our congregation worked with the contractors to complete the work. So it truly was everyone's mission to do that. The original pipe organ is still in our church. It's in the front of the sanctuary, and it was purchased in part by the Carnegie Organ Foundation. At the time, Mr. and Mrs. Ernest Collins, who were the organist and the choir director, worked with the Andrew Carnegie Foundation to get a grant to help pay for the organ. The foundation gave half of the cost of the organ. The congregation paid for the other half. It was $1,500. Also, it was very difficult to get a Carnegie grant. The organ was dedicated on June 7th, 1908, and it is still being played today. Our church is very fortunate to also have a 3-octave Schumeric bell choir and set of choir chimes. The beautiful life-size painting of Jesus hanging in the front of our sanctuary next to the organ was painted in 1946 by John Krogman. He was an artist originally from Chicago, then in the later years of his life he lived in Indiana. That is probably where he lived when he painted this painting for us, because 7 years after the painting, he died at the age of 86. The picture was given to us in memory of Janie, Robert, and Ella Phobes by a member of their family. At the time the painting was hung in the church, it was referred to as the Beckoning Christ. We are not certain that the artist ever called it that. But when you look at this picture, you can see with Jesus' outstretched hands that many people feel he is beckoning them to him. I'm going to read a passage of scripture that gives true meaning to what some of us feel this picture is all about. It's from Matthew 11, verses 28 to 30. Come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. We have a number of people, still members of our church, who have spent their entire life as a member of the Linesville United Methodist Church. And even for those of us who have only been with the church for 30 years, we all take pride in it being our church, and we strive to keep it our church and to make it special.
Hi, I'm Telsey Vari. I'm here to talk to you about the Linesville Community Public Library and the history of it. Well, in 1980, the Crawford County Federated Library System did a survey, and out of that survey, they decided that a library would be good in Linesville. They contacted Ruth Irons, who was recently retired from the Alice Schaefer Elementary School, and asked her if she would do the research on it. She gladly accepted and then proceeded to see if the high school would be interested in housing a public library, but they were not at the time. In 1981, the Historical Society of Linesville was looking for a place to have a repository for their collections. And Representative Jim Mary suggested, well, maybe you could collaborate with the possibility of a library in Linesville. Ruth then spearheaded that and took off. And they decided that they would approach the borough and the borough building, which is the old railroad station, and see if maybe they could house a library in there. Through many meetings and things, it was agreed upon that they could do this. And after much work and restoration, because the Linesville Fire Department moved out of the borough building at that time, they decided they would use 75% of that building for the library. Well, as most things do, the library grew, its services grew. They started out with, of course, the little card catalog and everything, but in a short time, they were just bulging with materials and things. The Universalist Unitarian Church, their membership was dwindling, and a couple of the last members that were here in Linesville approached the library board and asked them if they would be interested in moving the library to the church building. It was agreed upon that that would be a good thing, that would serve for the room that was needed. And so in 1989, the Universalist Unitarian Church was dedicated and the deed was given over to the Linesville Community Public Library. And there was a lot of work that needed done to that. One of the first things that had to happen is they had to call in some beekeepers to take bees out of the belfry. And from the newspaper articles, it says that the circumference of the beehive was over a yard in length. But after that, they were able to do more renovations. There was an antique pump organ inside, and it was absolutely mammoth. And the library was able to sell that to an antique dealer in Pittsburgh and use the money toward refurbishing the library. And then in May, they were hauling out the chair pews and selling them at the annual yard sale to raise more money. So very interesting what has come about. They had to shore up the floor and other things, but there was a lot of work for that. Another interesting thing is in the winter of '89, the front desk was slated to come in. It came in on a Sunday afternoon in the middle of the blizzard. The desk came in 2 pieces, and each piece weighed 300 pounds. Now, the volunteers that showed up tried their very best, but because of the blizzard and it's icy And the volunteers, when they were pulling it out of the truck, it dropped in the middle of the road. So they began stopping everybody who was around to see if they could help them move it in. Eventually, they were able to move both pieces into the library, and it was not damaged. The library opened in March of 1990, and it was a very exciting time. Now, the library was not full of bookshelves and stacks. They had just the beginnings of their stacks. Unlike today, we're stuffed to the gills with bookshelves and everything. But during the year of 1990, Ruth Irons, who I'd mentioned earlier, was recognized for 8 years of dedication to the library. Ruth was recognized as Trustee of the Year, and then she received a citation from State Representative Jim Mary also. Being that our library is in a church building, one of the main features that is beautiful to the building is the stained glass windows. We have many of them. And in the early morning, the sun peeks through on one side of the library through those windows. And on the afternoons, the sun comes through the other side and just bathes the entire library in beautiful light. We're very proud of those, especially since we're probably the only library, public library in a church building that I know of around. We first started out with a simple card catalog, and everything was written by hand, and now our library is fully automated. They had a story hour for preschoolers in the beginning, and we still do that today, but it has expanded into summer challenges, adult crafting, adult programming. We do D&D and Magic the Gathering. We have all kinds of programming for pre-K through adult. Probably every day of the week we have programming at least once, if not more. We are no longer your very quiet library.
Hello, my name is Steve Mickle. I'd like to talk to you about the haunted barn and the Christmas barn located in Linesville, Pennsylvania. The barn was built actually in 1885. There was a doctor who had the barn in his house built. It's located on Stratton Ave, and the doctor's name was Dr. Stratton. And the barn was actually a carriage center for the horses and the carriages. So the patients would come over there, drop their horses off, and then they would walk to the doctor's office over in a triplex of what we have now. Throughout the years, it used to be way back when, and I don't really remember this, but it was Bicko's Automotive Garage, and then it was John Evans had lawnmowers he worked on. So you'd take your lawnmower to John Evans, and he would fix it up, and there was always piles of them inside, and but he was very good at doing that, and he knew right where your lawnmower was when you would go in there and to ask for yours. And after that, there was a community news, our Linesville newspaper had an office in there. There was an antique shop located in there, and also state representatives had an office in there at one time. In 2008, the property was for sale, and we purchased it. So once we purchased it, we just started fixing it up little by little, and then from there we decided that we'd like to use it to for the community so people could enjoy it. We use it for baby showers and events such as graduation parties. We have the haunted barn, and we have the Christmas tree display in it. I forget how many years ago, probably about 8 years ago, we started, we were asked to put Christmas trees in there for the tractor parade, and so we have anywhere from 75 to 100 Christmas trees in there, and it's all decorated up. Not just Christmas trees, there's like villages and trains, and there's all kinds of different Christmas scenes that we set up inside there. We're open like every weekend in December, usually around 5 or 6 o'clock till 9 or 10 o'clock at night. We hand out cookies and hot chocolate. There are some other people that make cookies for us to hand out. And people are welcome to come through and look at the tree display and all the different decorations that we have. Last year, 2018, was our 10th year. This will be our 11th year. So the first year we started, it was actually trick-or-treat night, and Kelly and I decided to, well, she reminded me it was trick-or-treat. And so we went over to the barn and we set up a table, and we had candy for the kids, and it was just her and I inside. And I put a mask on and, you know, went upstairs and top of the barn and scaring people and then coming down. And then from there, it just gradually got a little bit bigger. The next year we walked in the door and we did like a circle. And then the year after that, we started getting a little bit bigger and bigger. And so now we have around 35 to 40 people that are live actors inside the barn. And it's about 2,700 square feet of indoor and outdoor attractions. We have people in the family that, Kelly's family and my family, that have made things and that volunteer a lot of time to help put things up. Greg Martin helps me out a lot. He does a lot with the outside maze. We have a haunted maze out there. So we get anywhere from 750 to, you know, a little over 1,000 people that come through it every year. I believe it's the largest free haunted attraction in the state. I haven't found any place else that is that big and that doesn't charge anything. When I was a little kid, I remember growing up, and there was a place right up here on Erie Street, Mrs. Irons. She was she come into the school and was my lunch lady. And I remember going through the house. She would decorate it all up, you know, and we'd walk through the doors and stuff, and she'd have people in there to scare people. And it was always something that you remember as a kid. And so now we're hoping that families and their children can come through and have memories that will last a lifetime for them.
My name is Larry Henry. I'm the oldest son of Bob and Marie Henry. They had three other siblings. And our family was well known in the area. They probably, between the 1960s to 1990, as close as we can count, they started or were involved with about a dozen businesses. Most of them involved the fruit stand, the ice cream stand, the corn barn down in Nestleville. But most of the people in this area, if you ask anybody from the 70s if they knew Bob and Marie, they would have to say yes from Linesville, because they were heavily involved with the not only their businesses, but they were very heavily community-minded. And they were involved with the Rotary Club, the Crawford County Tourist Association, the First Baptist Church, and various other things going on in Linesville itself. Before they came back into the Linesville area, my dad's, his father was always in the area. They were originally from Linesville, so they were, you know, natives to the area. But when they opened the corn stand, the corn barn down in Espyville, they built the corn barn first, and the fruit stand followed about the same year. The ice cream stand was maybe a year or two later. But they packed usually, 400 bags onto a truck. The going rate at that time was about $1 an hour to pick and 10 cents a bag to pack, and about 400 bags on a normal truck. And then once a week they might do a semi, which, you know, figure that's about 2 normal trucks. Then it takes 8 people to pick, and then more than that, maybe a dozen people to actually pack the corn. And always had 1 or 2 people working in the fruit stand. When the ice cream stand came along, they were more people were involved with the fruit stand for the waitresses and They were always busy down there. You know, at that time of the year, the pictures that we've seen, there's a lot of people in that era that like to stop in and would buy ice cream and, you know, and visit the fruit stand. And like I say, they were involved with a dozen businesses, anything from, they got into the garbage business and then the real estate office, hauling ice into the Meadville into the railroad, hauling sweet corn to a lot of small markets around in the area, in Connie Lake area. If you were to ask anybody from that time frame, if they didn't know my parents because of their involvement with the ice cream stand, the corn packing, or the garbage business, which encompassed the western half of Crawford County pretty much. Most people in Linesville would have to say that they either knew them personally or knew of them, and we're pretty pleased with that association.
My name's John Beagle. I'm the manager of PAL Fund Senior Housing here in Linesville. PAL Fund, a lot of people ask, what does that stand for? And it's Pymatuning Area, Lakeland, Farmers, Union, Neighborhood Development. That's a mouthful. But a lot of people ask, where did that name come from? And it goes back to what the reason for developing the senior housing was for. Back in the late 50s, early 60s, our farm society was in a process of changing. Prior to that time, mom and dad would get a farm and they would develop it and have children, and then they would get to an age where it was time to pass it on and retire. So they would normally pick one of their children to pass the farm on to, and that normally son had the obligation of providing a home and a retirement to their parents. Our society changed in the fact that the sons and their new wives really didn't want mom and dad living in their house on the farm. So farmers started to need a place to retire to. A group of farmers got together and discussed this. And as a matter of fact, at that particular time, the Secretary of Agriculture of Pennsylvania, Mr. McHale, was here at that time. And with some of his connections in Harrisburg and so forth, he got with another group of retiring farmers and decided that there should be a housing development for retiring farmers. They got their paperwork together and applied for loans and grants and so forth, but they were also told that they had to raise some seed money to show that there was support from the community. So they went about the community selling memberships. Decided, okay, where are we going to build this? Well, years prior to that, Linesville had a agricultural fair. A few of those are still in existence, like Albion and Jamestown and so forth. And Linesville had an agricultural fair that had ceased, but the land was still available, which is almost right in the center of town. Well, the group that was developing PAL Fund, they were able to get this land, and that's where they decided to build on. They built the first group of houses, which are single-story duplex houses, and these were quickly filled by retiring farmers. And then they had need for more, so they built phase 2, added some more, and eventually built phase 3, which was some more, and then they ran out of room. As the years have went by, there have become fewer and fewer farmers. So fewer and fewer farmers living at PAL Fund and more just retirees. At PAL Fund, I've been there 10 years. managing it, and we started to put activities in. This was something they never had before, and we've expanded on the social programs there at PAL Fund. Easter, sometimes Easter bunnies come. Then we go into the summer season, and we have bonfires and winter roast, and sometimes we have various different types of entertainment. Sometimes it can be a single singer or a band or something that comes in. All these the people that come in are very generous with what they charge us. We have speakers that come in, ventriloquists. Throughout the whole season, we have different events. Sometimes we have field trips that we will go different places. Well, through these activities and the participation of the tenants and the support of the board in that, PAL Fund, we were very proud of the fact that 5 years ago, we got a national award for being the top rural senior housing development in the nation. It has my name on it, but I did not get it. PAL Fund got it. I was only the manager, but we couldn't have accomplished what it took to win that award without the support of the tenants, the board of directors, the maintenance man, the groundskeeper. So we're quite proud of that. It's a very, very highly desirable senior housing area. We never have vacancies. We always have a waiting list, and we're quite proud of it and quite proud of the tenants are there. I'm sure I probably overlooked some of the other activities that we have there, but we always have something going on, at least once a month.
I'm Joseph Ryle, a member of the Rotary Club of Linesville, Pennsylvania. I've been in the club for 29 years. Our club was chartered back in 1977, and we're a little bit smaller than we were when we were chartered, but we work hard and do good work. And we're part of the Rotary International worldwide, and we come purely as a benevolent agency in the community to do good wherever we can do good. We have no political motivation and no religious motivation, even though I was a pastor when I was working full-time. So there's no motivation. We're simply there to bring what is true, what is fair, what will promote good fellowship and be beneficial all around. That's the goal of Rotary. The Rotary Club is made up of professional people, businessmen, entrepreneurs, I think I got that pronounced correctly, and just concerned citizens. Well, we've done a number of things over the years, but our primary project was our concession stand, which we take to wherever we can to set up when there's a festival or whatever going on. But every cent that we earn goes into some charity cause. That's important to keep in mind. We're not out there to earn money for ourselves, but for what we do charity-wise. Well, we work with the youth. When we had the money, we gave scholarships to graduating seniors. There is a RILA program, which is Rotary Youth Awards program for young people probably going on to college. There's a program called ROVA, which is for vocational students, and this has helped we send them to it. We do a lot of things. We can lose track of all the things that we do. We support a wildlife program on over in Crawford County. We give money to school nurses. What people don't realize that there are children that come to our public schools that need to be bathed, that need to have clean clothes that don't have them when they come, maybe boots or a jacket for when there's bad weather. So we give money to school nurses, and they in turn help with what they have to deal with those children. There was a concern that people go hiking on out towards the spillway, and there's a hiking trail there. And if they're older like me, and get tired on the way, there's no place to sit. So we did have a bench made and put out there on the hiking trail. The big thing coming up in December, which is, and we're assisting the people who are in charge of it, is the tractor parade. We had a gentleman, and I don't have their names on the top of my head right now, but goes around and puts on these paraglider shows. It is hillbilly fly-in, and they have paragliders from all over the country, from the west and from the south and from all over, and there'll be about 40 to 50 or more of them there, and they camp out for a week, and in the evening when the air is just right, they take their paragliders and swoop up into the sky and fly around, and it's fascinating to see and watch. So we've sponsored that, and that brings a little bit of attention to the Linesville community. I wonder whether all of the people in the community realize the benefit of having a service club in their community. The young people with scholarships and special retreats and programs that they can go to get themselves prepared for adulthood. It's just a very positive all-around thing. And as I may have indicated before, we don't come with a political motivation or religious motivation. We're just there to help, to be beneficial, and to lift up the morale of the community, actually.
Hi, I'm Paula Haney, and I'd like to tell you about some of the great things that the Chamber of Commerce started many moons ago. But one of the things is National Night Out. It's the second Tuesday of August each year, and it's a crime watch organization. And this is where you get to meet your neighbors, and you get to know the police, the fire department, the ambulance that are in your area, and you get to know your neighbors more, and you know who should and should not be on your street. The Pay It Forward actually began, my husband Mike and I were thinking about how we could have people give money to charities, but something they were very passionate about. So everybody gets to choose their foundation, and they sign up down at the Borough Building, and it's $1 a vote. So at the end of the 20 days, we have it December 1st to December 20th. At the end of the 20 days, we collect all the money, and we just divide. We go there, and whoever gets money, that money goes to that charity. It's not all the money goes to one charity. It's each charity gets so much money. Alan Clark, who is the mayor of Conneautville, said he wanted to get in on this to get money for the charities. He says, how about if we make this just a friendly wager? I said, okay, a friendly wager would be fun. It would be nice because that would benefit more charities. So then that grew, and then after that, then SBville says, we want to get in on it too. And then Pine Township said, yeah, we want to get on it too. Which is really nice because the more people, that much more people benefit, organizations benefit. The very first time we had this, we had 15 people, and we had almost $2,000 raised. Last year, when Conneautville one, they had over 2,000, I think it was $2,400 raised. So we have raised a lot of money for charities, which is great. My favorite thing that I love is the tractor parade. Mike and I talked about it a lot, and we needed something for the farmers. I mean, without a farmer, you have nothing. You have no food. So we wanted to thank the farmers, and we said, well, why not a tractor parade? And, you know, some people said, yeah, right. And I said, well, why not? So we went over there and we had the first tractor parade. And there were, the parade was supposed to start at 6:30. At 6 o'clock, I had no tractors. So I'm going, oh my gosh, people were right. Nobody's gonna wanna come to a tractor parade. But the volunteer fire department, my fire department that I belong to, they brought the antique fire truck, leading by, with Bill Nichols' antique Farmall, 2 lawn tractors that were decorated to the hilt, and there was, the borough brought Mr. and Mrs. Claus on a man lift. And that was the first tractor parade, 6 little tractors. And that was awesome. And there was about 700 people in town. And I thought, oh my gosh, we hit on something, yes. So then the next year when we got to the tractor parade, and it ballooned after that. And I knew it was only going to get bigger and better. And then we had more farmers getting involved. And I knew that it was just my time to sit back and let the farmers take over, because really they're the ones that are going to benefit by this tractor parade.
My name is Chad Laux, and I'm here to talk about Linesville's Lighted Tractor Parade. I got involved in the tractor parade in its 3rd year, but I attended the 1st year of the tractor parade in 2014. Me and some friends come in town to see what this lighted tractor parade was all about that we read in the paper about. Got down here and we waited and we waited and we waited, and finally about 10 minutes later, 6 lawnmowers come rolling through town. The next year come back to watch it again because I'm a hometown guy, and it grew to 12 tractors, and lights got a little better, and like I say, more participation. And that's when I said to a group of my friends or whatever, hey, we need to get involved in this. This is kind of neat. This is of our hometown. My business is agriculture. I have to be a part of this. So in the 3rd year, I got involved with the Linesville Lighted Tractor Parade. And that year, the parade had 19 units. And we brought some new ideas to the parade. Before, it all just been single tractors and lawnmowers and stuff. Well, we decided to hook a couple hay wagons together and make it like a Christmas train, the Christmas train or whatever. So had a bunch of straw bales on the wagon and all their friends and stuff piled on. So that kind of started the ball rolling to get people towing floats and trailers and so on and so forth. So that year we had 19 units in the parade, and it was kind of crazy. I drove through town on my tractor and threw some crazy Christmas lights on, and this pink blow-up pig on the roof, and just random crazy stuff. And there was about 1,000 people, if I had to guess, in town, Linesville or whatever, that year. And everybody had a smile on their face. Nobody was stuck in their phones, and nobody was screaming, hollering. Everybody had a smile on their face. And I thought, as depressed as this world is, and as crazy as this world is, and every day you turn on the news and you hear all these horrible things, if I can throw a few Christmas lights on my tractor and drive through my hometown, and I can put 1,000 smiles on people's faces, that's something I need to be a part of. So that was the 3rd year, whatever. Well, the 4th year, I got a little bit more excited and got everybody around me excited, and helped promote it. And we went from 19 tractors in the 3rd year to 52 tractors in the 4th year. So huge growth, more than double. And so the largest lighted tractor parade in the United States has 75 tractors in it, and we had 52, so I mean, we're that close. So with a little more amp and, it's contagious. So got everybody pumped up and did some more marketing and promoting. And last year was our 5th year, and we had 125 registered units and 131 tractors in the parade. So now we are the United States' largest lighted tractor parade here in Linesville. I am the owner and operator of the Candy Combine. I was, looking at parades on YouTube and tractor parades and so on and so forth. I found this guy out west. He had an old John Deere combine, and he drove it in parades and shot out candy, suckers, and so on and so forth. But all the parades were during the daytime. Well, I thought that was pretty neat, so I decided to make the Candy Combine and put lights on it. So first year, I borrowed my neighbor's combine. He just finished combining corn, and so the first few people that got Tootsie Rolls dumped on them got some corn as well. But the first year had the Candy Combine, had 150 pounds of Tootsie Rolls in it. It was like 23,000 Tootsie Rolls, or 22,800 and some or whatever, but called 23,000. And it was a huge hit, and everybody loved it. And so last year, for the 2018 parade, I bought a combine just specifically for parades. And we upped it up. We put 300 pounds of Tootsie Rolls in it. And so about 46,000 Tootsie Rolls we showered out here on the streets or whatever. So the importance of this tractor parade to the community, in my eyes, is huge. Hear tons of stories. Everybody tells me a story about what they experienced at the tractor parade, how their families got together and decorated tractors. There was one of the tractors from my family last year was a 4th generation tractor. My grandfather bought the tractor new. My dad rode along on the float, as well as my niece and my sister drove it. So it's kind of neat that that tractor been in that family for 4 generations, and that's just one of the stories that are being told. There's families that have restored tractors together, and now they're putting them in the tractor parade. Probably one of the highlights for me last year after the tractor parade. I was in Sheets in Meadville, and this lady comes up to me and wants to give me a high five. So I don't know her, I just high five her, and she says, "You don't know who I am, but," she says, "you drive that Candy Combine." She says, "I brought my son to that parade, and he's handicapped, and he loves lights, and you showered Tootsie Rolls on him, and you don't know what that meant to him." She had tears running down her cheeks and stuff, and and that's the reason I do this, for stories like that. It just, I don't know, it's something so crazy, so simple, but it moves so many people.
My favorite thing about Linesville is just the small town atmosphere, and that we don't have the problems that some of the big cities have got, because it is a small town and everybody knows everybody else. So sometimes that does create some problems, because you have to be careful about what you say about somebody else. But it's just a small town atmosphere, and everybody likes everybody, gets along with everybody.
People have asked me, what is your favorite thing about Linesville? And I guess over the years, as I mentioned before, I'm a lifetime resident, been here since I was a kid. And there is one activity that I guess the only time that I missed a year doing is when I was either away at school or in the service. But every year for my life has been going to the spillway, which Linesville is well known for.
My favorite thing about Linesville is obviously is certainly in my opinion, is the state park that borders and surrounds Linesville. Linesville butts up. It's the northern town of the Pymatinning State Park. And so the beaches, the swimming beaches, Linesville has its own swimming beach in the state park. It has its campgrounds. It has cabins. It has launch ramps and marinas. And there's just a recreational opportunity, the hunting and the fishing opportunities that abound here. I know my family moved here because of the state park, because of the recreational opportunities it provided. And that again is that 1934, the Pymatuning Dam really changed to me, a change for the better, the Linesville community and what it has to offer for not its residents as well as its tourists that come in and help support the economy here.
Oh, like I said, it's nice and small. Everybody knows each other. We help each other out when we can, but everybody stays to themselves a little bit too, which is nice also. But it's quiet and quaint. So it's like every town, we have its problems, but we work through them.
It's just a perfect place for kids to grow up. This was in the 40s and 50s. Of course, when the 50s rolled around, I got my first car, which was a 1949 Mercury. And the first girl I took out in that car was my wife, Justine, and that's the girl that I married later on. So there was a lot of connections with cruising around town, a lot of the, just like the old movies, American graffiti, that was the way it was here. We just cruised around and just had a good time.
Linesville's a small community. Everybody looks out for everybody. I've been here for 51 years now, and it's a neat community to grow up in. Nice community for kids to grow up in. So that's what's nice about Linesville.
But the nice thing about Linesville, it's laid back, and people are in general more friendly and communicating with each other, concerned about each other. I make a joke of it. You go to one town, they've got 4 traffic lights, but Linesville only has 1. And at 8 o'clock at night, it turns into a flashing yellow light. So that's the tempo of the community.
Well, having been born and raised in a large city and then moving numerous times before settling here, I love the small town atmosphere. Everybody knows you, everybody's friendly, everybody's welcoming, and we just love when people come and see what we have to offer.
All right, my favorite thing about Linesville was being in the fire department, serving my community. That's what I enjoy the most.
I love Linesville because, in a sense, it's your Mayberry. You can drive into Linesville, there's American flag on every pole, and just flapping in the breeze, and the sun's coming through. You can walk down the streets at any time of the day. You just have that sense of community and friendship. They're there to help you, make you feel welcome. It's a very friendly town.
My favorite thing about Linesville is each year we have the Pymatuning Waterfowl Festival in Linesville in the fall. It's a cooperation with the Ducks Unlimited program, but the Game Commission portion in here, which I haven't been involved in the entire time, was the Pennsylvania Duck Stamp Art Competition. And we get these original art pieces of ducks and we set them up at the high school, and then we judge them by a panel of judges and select the winner for the following year's duck stamp in Pennsylvania. So I've got all of them, and I've been part of that forever. So that's cool here in Linesville.
I've lived here my whole life, and I've always enjoyed being part of the community here. It was always a nice place to grow up. When you were a little kid, you had everybody knew who you were, so you couldn't get away with anything like that because they knew who you were, and they all knew your parents and stuff. And my parents grew up here, and my grandmother lived around here. So it's just always been a nice little community, and there's a lot of good things to do, if you like to hunt and fish, and just it's a great place for kids to just play and, have a good time.
My favorite thing about Linesville is that I see a resurgence of the youth that grew up here coming back and taking ownership of buildings and becoming business owners. and starting what a little town used to be like. We're not Mayberry, we're more advanced than that. But it's nice to see the interest, and it's nice to see how people like myself in my age bracket, I really like the history. I really love the architectural designs of the buildings. I'd hate to see them get torn down and just another sheets get put up. And it seems like with what's going on with the youth that are coming back, they appreciate it like I appreciate it.
My favorite thing about Linesville is this community spirit. The first year of the Candy Combine, I just about crested the hill here in front of Jerry's Corner Bar, and anyhow, the float in front of me had stopped to sing some Christmas carols. Well, my combine stalled out, and like I tried starting it wouldn't start, you know, and I'm like freaking out, you know, like I've put so much work into this, I got so many Tootsie Rolls I'm ready to dump on this town, and my combine breaks down. Well, out of the crowd there's like 4 guys that like spider monkey up my combine, like never even messed the lights up. I don't know, they just like jumped from the ground or how they did it, but anyhow, I hear from back there, try it now. Anyhow, I hit the switch and whoa, it fired up and everybody started cheering and it was cool, you know, and anyhow, yeah, there was 3 angels that come out of the crowd to fire that thing up for me. So, you know, community spirit. I mean, if it wasn't for those guys, they would have hooked a tow truck on me and towed me out, you know.
What isn't there to love about Linesville? Linesville's a very caring community. I'm sorry. Okay. I'll try not to cry. The other day, I was in my backyard, just watering the garden. I fell, broke my ankle. Okay. People didn't know about it. All they saw was my husband running back and forth. Well, when the ambulance took me off, the people on my street gathered around and prayed for me. The next day, food started coming over. And just not 1, 2 people bringing food. Had a girl write me a note, whatever you need, I'll do it for you. If I can't do it, I'll find somebody who will. Where do you find that?
Our Town Stories from Linesville is brought to you in part by Molded Fiberglass Tray Company, Bears Corvettes, Ray's Marketplace, Mary's Hardware and Automotive, RJ Roncaglione Excavating, The Crooked Paddle, and viewers like you. Thank you.